Hello everyone, my name is Protagonist, also known as Prot. Today is Sunday, the 10th of May, 2026. Local time is about 2 p.m. and I am out on one of my usual long hikes here in the mountains of Cyprus. For this walk I am not joined by my dogs because it's quite warm outside and I don't want them to suffer. I would never force them to join me under these conditions. We did go for a hike in the morning and we will go again for another hike sometime in the evening or night, depending on how they feel about it. I have been walking for about 2 hours already and I am somewhere deep in the mountains, and this means that I will be walking probably for another 2 hours, but we will see. I am not in a hurry to go anywhere. I don't have anything to do this evening, so I am free to roam around and just enjoy the natural scenes all around me. What I want to do in this video is expound on a philosophical theme, and that is the connection between wealth, introspection, death, resurrection, and transanimation. And I will explain what all these mean and how they are related to each other. We start with a powerful symbol, a metaphor, because as people we need metaphors, we need stories, we need narratives, we need to simplify the complexity of the world so that we can communicate. We cannot afford to cover each and every detail. We cannot afford to be ever the pedant on everything, because then that's overwhelming. I don't have enough time to explain to you the infinite depth of the world, so I have to simplify. This metaphor then, this symbol, is the Greek god of the underworld, Hades, or Hades in Greek. Hades is the god that presides over the underworld. The underworld is the place where souls go after they depart the body they were occupying. In other words, when somebody dies, their body stays here and decomposes, and their soul moves to the underworld. It goes to find Hades. We can think of Hades as a god that rules over the clear separation between two worlds. The world of the embodied souls, like you and me, we are embodied souls. We have a spirit, but we also have a body, and the body dictates what we do. Like if I feel tired, I have to stop. If I feel hungry, I need to eat. I have to go sleep, etc. Right? So I cannot just afford to be a spirit. I am a body and a spirit. And then that's the one world of the embodied souls, and the other world of the disembodied souls, the souls that have departed from this world, and they go and find Hades. Now, Hades is a very strict god because he maintains this separation without making any exceptions. Like once you enter the realm of Hades, there is no coming back. That's it for you. You are dead. The only way for you to come back is not as you, is as a different you. And this is transanimation. And I will explain what this means, but for now just keep the word in mind. Let's think about Hades a little bit more. There is an epithet that the Greeks use for Hades, which is a description of the god, a euphemism if you want, or a different way of describing the same god. And this epithet is Plouton. In English we say Pluto, and there is a planetary object in our solar system, I don't know if it's a planet or whatever, it doesn't really matter, called Pluto, okay? And Plouton comes from the Greek word for wealth. So Plutos is the word, and maybe you are familiar with the political term plutocracy, which literally means Plutos and kratos, so the authority, the rule, the state of wealth. So the rich people are ruling over everybody else. Kind of what we have nowadays, so I don't need to explain that too much. So Plouton is related to Athis. And you may now be wondering, why would the artistic mind of the Greek ever draw that connection? Why would, in our attempt to come up with a useful metaphor, in our attempt to develop a narrative about describing the world around us, about describing the phenomena as they unfold, why would we pick this kind of association? Why would death be connected, directly linked to the same person with wealth? The same person as in Athis. And you may then wonder, why not describe Plutos in terms of the Earth Mother? Why wouldn't we associate wealth with this world, like with the planet? Like Dimitra literally means Earth Mother, and why wouldn't we say that Dimitra is the goddess of wealth? Because in this world, in this earth, we find fruits and plentiful game, and we have all this land to build our houses and our villages and so on. So why isn't Dimitra related to wealth? And I think the answer is because of a certain association that is not physical, or that is more allegorical, let's say. And that is introspection. The person who performs introspection, the person who turns inwardly to understand who they are, to understand what they are feeling, to think through the different ideas that they are entertaining, the person who is contemplative, maybe we can even say philosophical, but the person who has this intellectual streak is a person who, in a sense, is more wealthy, spiritually more wealthy, because it is the person who can understand their place in the world. And by understanding their place in the world, they are, in a sense, empowered to make decisions, to pick choices that otherwise wouldn't be available to them. If you know who you are, if you know what you want, for example, you don't ask questions. You don't go around and checking with your friends what they think you should be doing. You don't seek validation. You are not asking, you are telling. When you know who you are, when you know what you want, you just do it. You are decisive. You go ahead and you lead by example. You are just your own person. You are not a reflection of another person's biases or wants. And that extends, of course, to your social milieu. You are your own person and not what your society wants you to be. That is the idea. Nevertheless, the intellectual, the person who is contemplative, the person who tries to go deep in their thoughts, tries to understand their thoughts better, is also a person who, in the popular imaginary and in actuality, is strongly associated with misery. And you are well aware of the stereotype of the embattled genius, or the poet, the artist, who is at once an impressive virtuoso, a spark of creativity unlike others, yet who also suffers with depression, is borderline depressed, but at the same time a genius of art, right, of artistic expression. Why is that? Why is it that we have this stereotype? Because fundamentally it is true. The more you introspect, the more you dig, the more deep you go, the less in touch you are with this world, with what is happening here. In effect, in a metaphorical sense, you are knocking on the gates of Abyss. And if you are persistent, if you go too deep, and if you knock for too long, Abyss will let you in and will be like, oh, you are just here, now you are not leaving. And of course, for you, this will be expressed as suffering, because what effectively happens is that you are embodied, you are in this world, meaning that you have to have situational awareness, you have to understand what is happening around you, you have to be able to describe what you are observing, what unfolds in your surroundings, and you have to, in effect, be anchored in this reality, the reality of the embodied self, where you can have an intellectual side or a spiritual expression, but you still have to tend to the needs of the body. If you are not doing that, if you are too introspective, too intellectual, too spiritual, you are effectively mistreating yourself. You are effectively caught in this situation where, even though you are embodied, you act as if you have already been disembodied. And this can only be a form of suffering. It can only be a way of dying before you are dead, of effectively trying to be a part of a world that you are not a part of you wanting to join others, you wanting to be in the underworld, the world of the souls, the disembodied souls, even though you have not been disembodied. We can think of this suffering also in terms of digging, or specifically in terms of the tunneling effect that happens when we focus too much on something. When you dig, what happens is that things get darker, increasingly dark. The more you go deep, the darker it gets. And of course, you may think again in terms of wealth, like if we are digging too deep, we will find minerals and we will find oil and gold or whatever. So in a sense, this is all wealth. These are the riches that we can find underground, but we effectively find a world that we do not belong to. You cannot thrive in a world that is tunneled, in a world that you cannot experience an open vista, where you don't have any sense of openness whatsoever, a world that forces you into one thing and one thing only. I have to be extra careful, folks. Situational awareness, right? Because, of course, I am walking on terrain that is uneven, and I have to be paying attention. I cannot just be thinking about the spirits. So this tunneling, effectively what creates in you is uneasiness. And the more you think and the more you overthink, the more that you are intensifying this sense of focus, this sense of tunneling, and thus the attendant uneasiness. So the person who focuses too much, the person who overthinks things, is the person who is necessarily miserable, because it's the person who neglects their body, who forgets to pay attention to their surroundings, who lacks situational awareness. It's the person who knocks on the gates of others before their time. This, as I said, maintains a strict separation between the worlds, and we can think of this separation also in terms of us going underwater. We can think of the self as a world that is close to us, right? There is proximity. It's not a world that is too far away from us. It's very close. Even though it is close to us, it is, in a sense, otherworldly. And you can think of this literally if you try to submerge yourself. Like, go to the beach, go find some element of water and dive, and try to stay underwater. You cannot survive there. If you only go for a few centimeters underwater, you cannot live there for long. You can do it for a few minutes, and if you are a very good diver, you can do it for more than the average person, but fundamentally, you do not belong in that world. Of course, the same is true if you try to go even deeper, like you cannot thrive after a certain point of depth, like you will actually die even if you have breath for it, like you cannot take it. So the point is that we can think of a world, this underwater world, which is really close to us. It's not far away from us, but yet it is in a sense unreachable. It is a world that we can only have inklings of, but we do not belong there. And if we try to force ourselves into that world, we die. And this is exactly how we can understand introspection and suffering. And here, introspection in the broader sense, introspection in the sense of anything we do to think things through, anything we do to develop an idea, to understand ourselves better, to be more thoughtful and more spiritual, right? I mentioned resurrection and transfiguration. Sorry, not transfiguration, transanimation, which is the next part. There will be times where you are on your way to Addis, and because of your state of mind, because of your outlook, there is no escape for you. Basically, you find yourself in this world you do not belong to, and for as long as you are that person, for as long as you are in that state of mind, you cannot come back. So in a sense, you are dead inside. You have died, even though technically you are still here with us. In practice, you are dead. You are not around. When that happens, the only way for you to ever rekindle your life, to ever come back to this world, is through a certain resurrection, which is metaphorical. It is a metaphor for you becoming a different person, for you finding something out here, out in this world, that triggers your enthusiasm and sparks again, enlightens again this spark of life that you have, and kindles the life that you have within you. So now you are not that person which was digging and going into the underworld. You are coming back, and you are coming back as a person with a renewed sense of enthusiasm and purpose. This too is symbolized in the myth of Zagreus, or Zagreus in ancient Greek, and in English it's Zagreus, and Zagreus is exactly that. So he dies, he is in the realm of Addis, and he is resurrected not as Zagreus, but as Dionysus in English. And he is resurrected as Dionysus, meaning that he didn't just get revived. It wasn't him, the same person, the same body that just got brought back into this world. No. He died Zagreus and he came back Dionysus. So he came back as the god that embodies, that represents, that symbolizes enthusiasm, that symbolizes a zest for life. There is this video game, by the way, called Hades, right? So Addis. And in Hades, in this video game, you are controlling a character called Zagreus. So, of course, it has been inspired by this myth. Granted, the game, of course, has a video game logic, so it has to do video gamey things, and that's totally okay. But part of this game's hook, part of the gameplay, is that you effectively can never escape from Hades, from the realm of Hades, right? So you try to escape, and you die, and you come back, and you die, and you come back, And even when you escape, you still come back. Basically, that is the idea. And the game is very good in that regard because it captures exactly the essence. For as long as you are there, for as long as you are Zagreus, who ended up in the underworld, there is no going back. The only way is by transanimating from Zagreus to Dionysus. And the transanimation then is the fact that you are not yourself anymore. You are changing. There is perhaps a kernel of you, a small part of you that is retained, but the bigger part has to go. The bigger part has to go. It has to be replaced by something else altogether. And I am saying this from a position of experience. I have undergone this metaphorical, and I have to stress this, metaphorical resurrection, this transanimation. Once I was at a state of mind that was a depressive state, a state of indecision, a state of radical uncertainty, a state, of course, of deep grief and a sense of powerlessness. And I describe it as an era of darkness. I experienced it as a time where I couldn't look around effectively. Like I could be physically somewhere, but in my head I didn't know what was actually happening all around me. In effect, I didn't have situational awareness. And so for me, the only way to salvage myself was to change myself, to become a different person, and to let go of the parts of me that were holding me down in the realm of Abyss. And of course, for each person it will be different, like how exactly you go about transanimating yourself. The point though is that you have to actually put yourself out of your head. Fundamentally, it comes down to that. You have to find activities in your life that are not about introspection and are not self-referential. So, for example, if you do some sport, you have to do a team sport. So you have to be there with your teammates. You have to communicate. You have to adapt to the actions of the other players. And thus you have to understand what is happening around you, right? Or you can be a painter, for example, and do landscape paintings. So you go outside and you effectively describe what is there. You don't just stay in your studio in a dark room just painting. No, that doesn't work. That submerges you deeper into the underworld. What you have to do is be here in the open vistas and describe what you are being a witness of, okay? And the same if it is some other activity, like you may be doing knitting or kneading the dough or whatever, or building or farming or gardening. It doesn't really matter what it is, so long as there is something external to you, something for you to understand that there is a world outside of you, that there is a world that does not depend on how you perceive of it, a world that is there, a world that has a logic of its own, a life of its own. And that life it has may remind you that you can also have a life of your own again, if you are willing to let go of what effectively is patterns of behavior, patterns of thought that have led you down that hole into the underworld, straight into the underworld. And if you do that, you are effectively, little by little, transforming. You are effectively becoming a different person. And this is a cumulative effect. So these small changes will lead to a bigger change, where you are, in a sense, a different person altogether. And this is what happened to me. And I went from a depressive state into a state of decisiveness, into a state of clarity. I have no doubts in what I'm doing. I set my mind to it and I do it, and I have full confidence in my ability to do it. I am not dithering, I am not delaying, I am not postponing, I am not wondering whether I have what it takes to do it. I just do it. I am willing to fight even the gods, as it were, to do what I want. And that is a completely different mindset to the one I had, a mindset of defeatism, a mindset of fatalism, a mindset that, well, nothing really matters, you cannot do anything, all is lost, don't bother, don't try, just abandon this world. Whereas now, I recognize the significance of the embodied soul. We do not belong to this world in the sense of worshipping it. We are travelers, we are passers-by. But for as long as we are here, we have to recognize what is here. We cannot afford, I think, to pretend that we don't experience awe in the face of the open vistas. I don't subscribe to all these schools of thought that tell you, no, don't be invested in this world, don't look around, don't feel any sensation. I don't subscribe to that. I want to feel all the sensations with the understanding that I do not cling on to them, with the understanding that I am transient, with the understanding that things are changing, that me, I was here at some point and I will not be here forever. I come and go just as this world comes and goes. Everything in this world is transfigurable. Everything in this world is in a process of transfiguration, a process of metamorphosis from one state to another state and then back. So I do not want to worship this world. I do not want to cling onto this world, to think that I own a place in this world, that I own qualities which are nominally mine, such as my intelligence, my youth, or whatever, right? I don't own any of that. They come and they go, and you can lose them at any moment. So then I recognize what is around me, and by doing that, I effectively get out of my head. I effectively maintain this balance of being introspective, of having this capacity for deep thought, for contemplation that is sustained and focused and very productive, but to the point where it does not become self-destructive. I am out here, I am observing these butterflies now. I can see all the vegetation around me, I can hear the birds. This is lovely, this is beautiful. And I think it is fundamentally beauty that allows you to go through this process of resurrection, through this process of transanimation, and to start appreciating beauty all around you, beauty that is immanent in this world. It is everywhere, provided you are willing to see it, provided you make the effort to look around and describe what is and appreciate what you have. That's all for today, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Take care and goodbye for now. Bye-bye.